All right, welcome back to the Long Control to the Spanish Radio Show. We have the honor to have this great woman here. She's an author. She's a game changer. She is a doctor. She was a participant in Artist Cafe 34 a couple months ago in April. So this is Dr. Tashina Reeder. So how you doing today?
Hi, let me clarify for folks. I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm a doctor. I hold a doctorate in marriage and family therapy.
Okay. Yes. So how you doing? How you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm enjoying the weather, the summer. I love the heat. So this.
You are. You love the heat. Man.
I love the warm weather. This is perfect for me. So yeah, I'm actually doing pretty awesome.
That's good.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're definitely welcome. So, we got a lot to talk about your book, Manifesting Her, and I know that you would just use the country a couple weeks ago, the country.
Trinidad.
Yes, so what was that experience like?
You know, it was an amazing experience. You know, I've never imagined that I would actually be in Trinidad talking about my book. And so it was definitely an opportunity. It was an experience. Not only was I sharing, but I was also learning. And the number one thing that I learned while there was that, emotions, things that we share here, even in the U.S. today, the feeling overextended, stressed, underappreciated, undervalued, same expressions of feelings that were shared there.
Wow.
And needing to better understand how they can grow in their sense of self, but also be well in mind, body, and spirit. And so I said, wow, this is not just a U.S. of A thing. This is universal. Everybody's seeking to be a better version of themselves.
Right, especially in the midst of the pandemic going on, global pandemic, COVID, and being home and trying to get back to some normalcy, and then trying to adjust and trying to work on themselves, because when the COVID happened, they gave opportunity to everybody to stay home and work on themselves.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to go about doing it. But now we have more heightened sense of going on, and emotions and things going haywire, and everybody be on like 100, you know what I mean, all the time, to try to get back to where they were before the pandemic. So
I don't know if that's even going to be a thing, going back to the way things were. I mean, I know when the onset of the pandemic, people were talking about this new normal, and of course we were resisting because change is difficult for many of us, and we had to do a lot of pivoting and a lot of shifting by trying to identify what directions do I take to survive, and then being able to identify that direction and take bold actions to sustain it, to survive. And so it feels like we're still in survival mode. There's still a lot of things happening in our world that's really impactful. It's very traumatic. I know that's a trending word now, trauma. Right? And so there's a lot of things that we all are dealing with, and I believe that one of the blessings of COVID, I believe that when there's challenges, there's also some things that comes out of it that can be seen as a blessing. And one of those things is that I believe we as a society are recognizing that our mental health is important, that being well is important. And so I believe that we've entered into this space, kind of paradigm shift, if you will, of how we're viewing our mental health and how we go about becoming well. So, yeah.
Right, I think mental health has become a vital part of our community, in terms of, because when you were shut down, your mental health was we didn't think about mental health like was a couple of years ago, but now we're thinking about it. We make our decisions now more conscious based on our mental health. You know what I mean? So I think mental health is very essential because it affects everything you do, whether finances, whether friendships, whether relationships, whether your job. Everything has to do with mental health, and make sure you're in the right frame of mind to deal with certain situations or deal with certain people. So I think that's so important. So we'll get back to the book later, but who was Tashina Reeder growing up?
Believe it or not, I shared this in the book that I used to stutter. I had a speech impediment where my stuttering was really fast talking.
Right.
And as a child, you're just trying to, communicate. And I would just really talk really, really fast, where I would stumble over my words, and it caused me to shrink. When I think about it now, it caused me to not want to ask questions, because oftentimes people didn't understand me, or I would get the looks like, what are you talking about? I would begin to feel dismissed. But outside of that challenge, I had a full life as a kid. I had two parents, my mother and my father, and I had a sister. We lived in West Oak Lane. I went to King High School. I was a co-captain of the drill team. I traveled as a kid with my family. We was always in Brooklyn. I had family in Brooklyn. My grandmother was from Brooklyn, and so was my mother. And so, traveling to Brooklyn to visit family, going to Connecticut to visit family, traveling to Wildwood with the family for like a family trip with cousins. And so I had a full life. I, went to camp, overnight camp. Timberlake was the name of the camp. I had friends. I played outside. We did hopscotch. I was in a double dutch contest. So I had a full rounded life. And I think, as most children, we, experience different things, and I had, a little speech accompaniment going on at the same time. But as a kid, I didn't realize how it would impact me growing into adulthood. But yeah, I, went to college. Fun times. I pledged Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
So what college you went to?
I went to Edinburgh University.
Okay.
Yeah, that's upstate Pennsylvania. It's now called Penn West Edinburgh. I know they changed the name.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I just read about it. I read about it maybe a few weeks ago, and I thought, I think I'm looking at the wrong school.
Right.
Wrong school. But they merged with Edinburgh Clarion, and I think I want to say Penn up in the northern regions of Pennsylvania. They merged.
Oh wow.
And so it's called Edinburgh's campus is now called Penn West Edinburgh. I know. I'm like, I missed this EP.
Right.
So I did that. Graduated from Edinburgh. I went to Temple University, where I studied social work, master's in social work. And then I attended Drexel University, where I obtained my doctorate in marriage and family therapy, couples and family therapy. And then I pursued licensure in social work. And from there, I've been working with families and individuals, and then progressed to just working with women who was experiencing issues around addictions, which really cultivated my interest in spirituality and trauma because of the things that I was experiencing and being kind of exposed to through the process of therapy. But I wanted to learn more about what that was, what it looks like, how does it show up. Then I furthered my education in trauma and became a certified prolonged exposure therapy trauma therapist, which is a model of treatment for trauma. And so then I evolved and I opened my own private practice called Soul Care Services, which is located on City Line Avenue. And then I had my own life experiences, and so through that, I think when you have your own life experiences, you have a deeper understanding of the impact of trauma, or a deeper understanding of what others may have gone through.
Right.
You didn't understand it then, but you can understand it now that you've gone through something, right? And so as a result, I decided, to tell my story, which is how I came to the book Manifesting Her. And then from that, the doors just began to open, being transparent. I believe is healing, and as a result, I began to engage into coaching, wellness coaching, because I think we're entering a time where people, yes, want to therapy, but people also were seeking this coaching. They needed some strategies to make some changes going forward. And so with coaching, it allows me to be a little bit more transparent than I am in doing therapy. And so I transitioned to doing more of coaching, group coaching with women, more of teaching about wellness, to help them move beyond some of their own obstacles. And some of that consists of them going to therapy themselves, right? And so, yeah, I just think, life experiences cultivate your own narratives, good or bad, but we work through them through more life experiences and also investing in yourself to learn new things, to gain skills, to grow. And I believe that what we once thought was unimaginable or ugly or unworthy becomes our strength and even superpower. And so here I am speaking on your platform about, things that I think many of us share in common, the desire to move beyond our own pain, to become well in mind, body, and spirit.
Right. So you just a whole lot.
I did.
So your first part of your life was social work. Am I correct? Social work was
well, actually, undergrad I studied criminal justice.
Oh, okay. So how'd you get to criminal justice and then social work? How'd that happen?
So I was studying criminal justice, and it was during my last year of my undergraduate studies where I was allowed to go do like an externship.
Gotcha.
And so I applied for a position in externship over at the family courthouse where I worked at the SIAC division, which was the state intensive aftercare program for juveniles.
Right.
And these juveniles were really living in detention centers.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the last stop for them. Like after this was really charged as an adult. And so I came back home. So I was able to move back home my last year. And during that experience, I began to work with the youth, visit these institutions to meet with my assigned cases, because most of them were there, living there. And it hit me and said, what happened? Of course, I didn't say this out loud to them, but I was thinking to myself, why is a 17-year-old living here because of a murder? What happened? He didn't just wake up one day and say, something was happening in his life that he found himself on this path.
Right.
And when I learned of what had happened, I was able to then, when he was prepared to return home, of course, part of being the probation officer, which was a SIAC program, we were probation officers.
Right.
So yeah, I was an intern probation officer. And I was able to go to visit the home. And I realized, OMG, it's not the kid, it's the system, it's the family. So I was able to meet with the mother and the child with my supervisor at the time. And I was so moved, almost to tears. I had to hold it together because, you're trained to not show that level of emotion while working with clients. So I realized I want to work more with families because this kid was crying for help. But mom needed her own support and couldn't see or connect with what was happening with her son.
Right.
So I said, okay, I need to go further my education. So I wanted to explore social work. And that's how I ended up in social work, because of that experience with that kid. Yeah. I didn't want to be criminal justice. I wanted to work with the family to say, we got to heal this part. Mm-hmm. This kid didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be in the juvie. Right? No. Mm-hmm. Something happened.
Right.
And so I realized, oh wow, mom needed her own supports. But life happened for her too. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, I want to work with families. That was the motivator that caused me to go to social work. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I ended up at Temple.
And then you did social work, and then you did transfer to trauma. How that happened?
So social work, and then I got my master's, and then I went to pursue the doctorate in family therapy. So at the time with social work, you learn about trauma, but I didn't really understand the breadth of it, like the kind of the totality, the toll that it takes on an individual. Mm-hmm. And so when I started experiencing more experiences that I kind of vicariously experienced with the clients through their stories, through the process of therapy. I was wondering why I was starting to feel drained and heavy. What was happening to me? And through supervision, of course, through my training education, I realized, oh my God, I'm experiencing this vicarious form of trauma. Just hearing about what was going on with a lot of the patients that I was serving, and so I decided I wanted to learn more about this because I realized even though the individual may have has happened to them, it doesn't. You can witness something or hear something and feel it be just as traumatized by hearing it or seeing it. And I think oftentimes many of us lack awareness or understanding of that. We assume that it has to happen to us directly. No, when you experience trauma, you can witness it, hear it, and you can have a significant impact just through visualizing seeing it or hearing it, hearing about it, the event. And so I decided to further my education and what that was and how to treat it. So that's how I ended up in trauma. And I realized, oh my gosh, thinking about childhood, how we have the ACE,
yeah.
And how many of, especially of us minorities, have been traumatized as a child.
Right.
And not realizing that as an adult, all of these factors play out in our adulthood, in our health, and in various areas of our health and our functioning. And so I decided to explore and learn more about that. And then when you have your own experience with trauma, it's like, oh my gosh, you know? And so, yeah, that's how I ended up in that, in trauma, working with trauma.
And then you went to coaching. Is that right? Coaching.
Yes.
Coaching. So what led you to start coaching after you had that? You did the therapy, the trauma. What led you to start coaching?
I just started transitioning to that recently.
Oh, okay.
While I still practice, but not as much as I was doing at a time. And so with coaching, it's more of, while I recognize women have had the experience of the trauma, they're now suffering with low confidence, self-esteem. Many of them are experiencing feelings of anxiety. Well, that can be treated through therapy. But I find that when they see someone who looks like them or have experienced something similar and say, oh my gosh, you went through all that and you're doing this, they want to learn how did you do it. And so good coaching is not treating their symptoms, it's just providing them a blueprint of what was done or what can be done to support them along their process of healing. And that would include therapy outside of me, of course, with someone else.
Right.
But just working with a group of women, I really enjoy groups. So that's like my thing. I really enjoy working with groups. And so I find, for me, it's more fulfilling because I feel like you have other perspectives that are presented from the other women in the groups. You can share more intimately because they're like, oh my gosh, you've gone through something similar. And so I believe even in that part of healing, even though it's not therapy, it's learning how these skill sets, these soft skill sets, the skill sets of how to take these next steps to work towards building our confidence or working towards overcoming some of these challenges. And if that means going to therapy and applying these coaching skills, then that's something that they would do. Yeah.
So you're doing a lot in terms of coaching, teaching, and helping people. So what led to you writing your book, Manifesting Her?
This was a work of 7 years of writing. It was actually a journal.
Okay.
So during my process of my own pain, I kept notes. I journaled, I wrote, and it was on my heart to, I need to write a book. I'm like, all right, you know how Lord be dropping little seeds. You're like, look, I wrote a book. And it really just tells of my experiences. So it's called Manifesting Her. The 7 strategies to redefine your identity after trauma, build big confidence, and cultivate self-love. And so how this came about was because I had to learn how to love myself again.
Wow.
Which is one of the types of relationships I was talking about. You have to have a relationship with yourself to begin to grow in your own awareness, to begin to acknowledge some things about what has happened or just about some of your own imperfections. Learning how to love yourself through it all. And so learning how to redefine who I was, because I realized that there was a time when I began to identify myself based on what had happened to me. I'm not that.
Right.
I used to identify myself as, because I spoke quickly, people wouldn't understand me, so that meant I wasn't smart enough. So I had to change my own way of thinking about myself and learning who I was and who I was not.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to cultivate that relationship with me. And really sitting with myself, because sometimes we don't sit long enough with ourselves to get to know who we are truly. We don't check in with ourselves and say, how am I feeling? How am I doing really? We're quick to say, I'm fine, I'm good, and you're falling apart at the seams.
Right, you just try to mask what you feeling, but you really feel this way, but you gotta suck it up and say, okay, I'm fine. About really, secondly, I'm sorry, really not. So.
And it was part of that mask. You hear that metaphorical statement of wearing the mask, right? We're wearing the mask, and it serves a purpose, because oftentimes what we're dealing with is really heavy, and it's like a way of protecting ourselves in the meantime to still be able to show up, even though we're not in a good place. But the challenge with wearing that mask for too long is that it can be crippling. So you're not really dealing with what's going on underneath, all the pain and all that stuff we try to pack away, put a little bow on top of it. But I think of it as like, because in life you're going to experience some triggers that will remind you of what you're trying to tuck away. So you think, remember that toy back in the day, the Jack in the Box?
Yes.
That's just like our emotions. We can hear something, see something, smell something, somebody say something, and that box pops open. People are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you, and you don't realize this is some unresolved pain that I've been dealing with that I haven't addressed. And so part of me getting to know me was building that rapport with myself.
And also unresolved pain is that you did think that people didn't have the right people to tell the people that how they couldn't trust anyone, so they had to basically sometimes I get mad and hide it, because like you didn't trust certain people that you want to tell because you feel like your business will go watch your business, So I think that's so important, just to like know who you are, but discover who you are as a person, and really eternally check in with yourself on a daily basis. Are you really good or not? And then finding people who are going to be a safe space, as you can tell, hey, I'm not feeling good today. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just want people to listen to you. Yeah. I don't need your advice. I just need you to listen to me right now, just to understand. So, 7 strategies for your trauma. From your perspective, when you write this book, what was the easiest strategy to write out, and what was the hardest one to write out?
They're all hard. They're all hard, honestly. Okay. Because those strategies are the things that I had to actively do towards my own healing. The first strategy was to acknowledge. And sometimes some things are really difficult to acknowledge. It's painful. That's why we avoid it. It's just part of, the common reaction to trauma. We avoid. We want to think about what has happened. The pain that was caused, and remember something. It hurt. And so that's why it was important, the second relationship was to cultivate a village of support. We don't live in a vacuum, so I needed to find some supports where I could trust. Because, people, experience shame and a fear of judgment. And so that keeps them not wanting to share with others about what's happening. So it's important to establish a supportive system, I call it the village, that you have a support that you can go to. And that might include a therapist.
That's right.
As part of your village.
That's right.
And so acknowledging was hard because I had to really sit with some uncomfortable feelings. And I had to say to myself, I'm a therapist and I went to therapy. I tell people, just because you have position or titles or education doesn't exempt you from life experience. Right? You're still human.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I had to sit with some uncomfortable feelings, and I went to therapy to begin to better understand and acknowledge. And that took me to the second strategy of unpacking. To make sense, right? To make meaning of what happened, the meaning that I was placing on that. Right. But sometimes the meaning we're placing on that is really grounded in this distorted perception of ourselves based on what has happened. So I had to really unpack and unlearn some things to change the narratives of how I saw myself as a woman, but also as an individual. I mean, that went as far as back in my childhood to how I I spoke. I'm not inept. I'm not, unable to speak. So I had to teach myself how to talk slower. Now, don't get me excited, Levon, because I can still talk pretty quick. So I can go with the rest of them. For those who know me, know, like, Sheena talks fast, but I know how to slow myself down when need be. But there was a time that insecurity was crippling for me. And so part of unpacking was unpacking all of these things that happened that I packed away and didn't want to touch because it was so painful. But once I grabbed the understanding, I was able to change that narrative for myself. And I was able to change my mindset, right? I had to change that mind shift. And that took some work. Because you have to unlearn years of stuff. Stuff from family messaging, things that you learned through life experiences. I mean, all of that. So you had to unpack and relearn some new things.
And that's crazy for you now. It's like as we get older, we learn this stuff. And I'm like, I wish we learned it while we was going through the midst of that, so we can unpack that now instead of holding on to it and carrying it as we get older. Because like you, I'm big for. I'm an advocate of mental health. I'm married to a family, so me and my wife had a life coach, and we our own therapists. So I tell people all the time, like once I got married, I thought I was healed. But a lot of stuff came out, and that's what I do. And a lot of stuff like past traumas, like you said, you had two lives coming together, So, and I had to go back to therapy. I was like, look, I got to do this stuff now. I ain't gonna wait 20 years in and not deal with it. I want to do it while it's present in my mind, so I can learn it to the straight to get rid of it. That's why I want to start telling couples, look, get therapists, because a lot of stuff is gonna come out. Like, you may not believe it, it's gonna come out, and I think you need a life coach, someone that is a middle to help you plan how to do things effectively together. And a lot of times people get married and just married for the money, but a lot of times a lot of internal stuff comes out after you say I do, and you can't control that. You got to work with that, or it's not going anywhere. So that's why it's so important that you have people like you go to manifest their themselves, because trauma is definitely real, and it exists out there. If we don't heal the trauma now, you will continue to bleed on people, and lose opportunities for friendships, relationships, jobs based on your insecurity or your pride, not saying that I need help. So I mean that's so how did you said you told me before y'all on about you being trained at Tobago. So how that opportunity came about?
So before I answer that, I do want to just clarify something for the viewers, because I've been asked this question often about the differences of therapy versus coaching. What I find that's happening too is people are seeking coaching when they really need therapy. And so the differences with therapy and coaching is that therapy is process oriented, right? It's insight oriented. We talk about things from the past, to help you gain insight to grow forward, right? So it's all about process. When you talk about coaching, it's the here and now. We're providing strategies, steps, and tools. We're not processing anything. We're not treating anything. Therapy treats mental health, depression, things like that, trauma. Therapy treats that. Coaching cannot. We can only provide you with a blueprint of skills, tools to use to move forward. And so there's definitely a difference. So if you want treatment and help to deal with trauma, then you need to seek therapy. If you want to learn how to improve confidence, you can find a coach to help you engage in strategies to boost that, or coaching to help you to grow in your sense of wellness and mind, body, and spirit. You can do coaching for that. But if you want to treat depression or treat trauma or treat any emotional challenging, therapy is the route to go. Coaching is skill sets, soft skills, steps, strategies to learn to grow forward. So I just want to clarify that for folks who didn't know the difference between therapy versus coaching. How I ended up in Trinidad. So I had a book signing April the 30th, which was simply amazing. And I have an assistant who I work closely with, and she's
Okay.
And make a long story short, she called and said, I got you an event in Trinidad, coming home. And I said, what? When? In 2 weeks? She said, I said, when? Next year? She said, no, in 2 weeks. And this was the book signing in April. That was sprung on me probably, she informed me of that probably sometime in May. I was like, OMG, I'm going to Trinidad. So of course I'm like, absolutely. And so what it evolved to, it went from 1 to 4 different speaking events with a sharing, I'd say, of the book to women and a few men. And so I just feel fortunate to have been blessed with that opportunity to travel internationally to share about my book and to meet some amazing people. Let me tell you, amazing people there that are go-getters, these are women who are leaders, women who work really hard and want to grow an understanding of self and grow an understanding of how they can find that harmony, if you will, of work life and social aspect of their lives. So you still want to be able to socialize, but you have family and you are responsible for work things, related matters as well. And so it was a pleasure meeting them, and we still keep in touch. And I believe that one day I probably will be back in Trinidad, hopefully to continue the sharing and the teaching of different things to improve wellness.
Yeah, that's a life-changing experience. Like, you doing your book signing, and that's when you're going to Trinidad speaking about. That's life-changing. That's like something that like your book is doing something to someone, and your book having your assistant. So
she's actually amazing. So
yeah,
I'm very appreciative that she thought enough of me to do that. I didn't know she was going to do that.
Right, that's a blessing. Yeah, so what's next for the book, Manifesting Her? Are there events coming up? Are you speaking engagements?
I have an event coming up on August. August the 27th is the Scale Up event that is being hosted by Nicole Streets. She has a business where she's celebrating her 1 year in business. So I was invited to be a speaker there. That's coming up, so stay tuned. You'll see me posting about that. I do have some projects in the works.
Okay.
I want to talk about it too soon, but there is a project happening with this book. And I am working on a boot camp that will take place, Making Shift Happen Boot Camp, which is kind of my hashtag that I use for Manifesting Her.
Right.
That will be taking place coming soon, so stay tuned for postings about that. So I have some stuff I'm working on. Yeah.
All right, I'm not trying to be too deep here. I'm trying business, my guess, and positive is one of your projects for Manifesting Her involve young ladies, help them overcome their trauma while they're young.
Not yet.
No. Not yet.
But what I do want to address, I know I mentioned 3 types of relationships. We talked about that relationship with yourself, attending to yourself, showing up for yourself. Are you eating when you're hungry? Are you seeing a doctor to take care of your well-being? Are you, attending to you? The second one was, how's your relationships? Do you need to mend relationships? Do you have a support system?
Right.
The third relationship, which I think is the most important, is how is your relationship with God?
Right.
You may not call him God. People have different spiritual beliefs, but whatever that place is or that thing is that you draw resilience from, how is that relationship?
Right.
I think it's important to have those 3 because I think that's what helps you, which cultivates that resiliency that we all have, but also we find support. But also deeper appreciation and knowing of self. When we begin to spend time with ourselves and spend time with those that village we have, but also spend time in our faith and with God. And I believe that those 3 together, you can achieve your wellness by cultivating those 3 relationships: self, others, and God.
Amen. So, a couple more questions.
Sure.
You do a lot. You have a lot of coaching, you do therapy, you're an author, you're just speaker, a worldwide speaker now.
That's
so,
bug guy. That's a bug guy experience,
yes,
honestly.
Yes.
Honestly.
And so, in the midst of all the stuff you do, what do you do for self-care?
I travel. I sleep. I have this favorite park in Philadelphia. I don't want to talk about it. I want to see everybody at my favorite park because it's like really serene. I'm able to sit by the water. I'm able to look out in the water, and it's always a spot that's always open. It's always that's the spot I always sit in, and I'll sit in my little blanket, my little chair. I bring a little lunch bag, my water, a little fruit, and I'll sit and I'll just listen to music and I'll just exhale. Take a deep breath and I exhale. I walk a lot. That's my other safe place. That's my place where I get to attend to me, but it's also my creative space. I'll get to thinking and processing. I'll pray as I am walking. And walking is freeing for me. Sometimes I'll walk so far, like, oh my gosh, I gotta walk back. I gotta walk so far, I gotta walk back. But I love to walk. I pray. I wake up in the morning and I do a little devotion, or I'll just lay and I'll listen to my big little sister, Sarah J. Roberts. I listen to one of her sermons, and then my brother, Torrey Roberts, them two, I'll listen to one of their sermons for self-care and just to remain grounded. I believe, you can find solace in different places, whether it's being alone, whether it's the meditation, whatever that thing is. But for me, I engage in a walk. I'll go to a park where there's water. Something about the water. I'll listen to sermons. What else do I do? I travel. I love to travel, so I like to experience life. But if I can't travel, one of the things I also do is I'll FaceTime my nephews. I was randomly call, like, where my child? We call each other Team Tat. So they have my nephew's sons and I'm Auntie Mommy. And if I didn't see their faces, I'll just smile. It makes everything better.
Okay.
16-year-old AJ and Tyler, who is 6, soon to be 7. And them two make my heart smile. And so those are things that I engage with self-care. Of course, attending to my mental health. I still go to therapy. I think it's important for anyone doing the work when you're serving, but also working through your own stuff. Therapy is very important. There's no shame in seeking therapy.
No, it's not. No shame.
I do that. I read. I write. I journal as a way for me to also process just my feelings. It don't have to be something heavy. Just something. Today was a great day of gratitude. Today was a great day. Blah 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 blah. I'll sing. I do a number of things.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you say you missed about Sarah J. Roberts. Did she go to the event when she was here in Philly?
I was in Trinidad. I missed it.
Oh!
Usually I've gone to just about every event she has here, and I've been to Denver to the actual Women Evolving event in Denver.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh, that was an experience. That and the COVID just came in this wreck shop where we couldn't have it in person because of COVID, but I'm looking forward to the next Women Evolving conference that usually is in July that she'll have in Denver. It was an amazing transformative experience. And I met some amazing women that I still keep in touch with to this day that I met in Denver.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, where people can find more information about you, your book, your coaching, your coaching services, things like that.
So Manifesting Her, the book, and the workbook, because I decided that I wanted people to not just read the book, but do the work. So I did a workbook of blank paper that women could use and answer questions. I was like, God, you really pouring out of me, right? You can find this on my website at drtashinareeder.com. And the book can be ordered on drtashinareeder.com, but also you can reach me if you want to learn more about what I offer in terms of coaching. You can email me at info@drtashinareeder.com. I'm on all social media platforms at drtashinareeder.com, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And stay tuned to what's to come to, if you want to join the boot camp, or it will be a free boot camp if you want to be part of that. So stay tuned for more information. If you want to subscribe to my email list to know what's happening in the weekly, you can just go to my website, drtashinareeder.com, and subscribe to my email list, and you'll get all the updates every week about what's going on with Dr. Tashina Reeder and manifesting her. Yeah.
So is the boot camp virtually? The boot camp
will be virtual.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the boot camp will be virtual.
Okay, okay.
So So I'm thinking about a question you asked me about things that I'm doing. So it's not just the book, but also coaching. But speaking has become another part of what God has blessed me to do, and so that has evolved into something beautiful as well. Imagine the things that you once thought was impossible, that God was using it.
Impossible.
Imagine, right? And so I'm just living life, and I'm like, following God as a lead.
Yeah. So my final question is, what advice would you say to the young Tashina Reeder?
What advice I give younger Tashina? That everything, I say this to myself now, everything that you need, everything that you want to do, the things that you need is already within you. To believe in yourself, to love yourself. You're beautiful. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, I would tell her that.
Wow, Dr. Tashina Reeder. I said it was Tashina.
Dr. Tashina.
Yeah,
you said it right.
Okay, I'll make sure I said it right. I was scared if I said it wrong. But thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It's truly an honor, like you said, to support her, to get her book, Manifesting Her, some of the strategies to redefine your trauma and build good confidence and cultivate self-love. And our favorite quote also says that an empowered soul has no limits.
Yes. That is so true. The sky is the limit, I believe, with faith, with action, with limitless possibilities. It empowers your soul to be limitless.
Yes.
And there's life after trauma. That's my other quote I think. There's life
after trauma. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So thank you so much. Thank you for those who are watching. I appreciate you watching the replay. Support Tashina Reeder, her book, and Manifesting Her. And we, like you said, she check out for more announcements on her about what she's doing, about the boot camp later this summer. So hope y'all enjoy your Saturday. Be safe and stay hydrated.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.